Hello there. So this video is about manifesting. It's about the things that I've manifested, the way that they can come into my life, and often with a lot of pain and always very, very last minute, and the sort of things that I've tried to manifest, but they've come into my life, but not in the way that I wanted. Okay, so let's crack on because it's quite a long one actually. I didn't think I'd manifested so much. So the first thing is that I've manifested jobs just by standing outside of the building. So I was in a UK city called Bath. I used to go to a particular gym, and when I walked outside the gym, there used to be this osteopathy and Pilates studio, and I used to look at it and I think, oh, I'd love to join there, but I felt like a little bit intimidated by it, and I think I actually said, oh, I'd love to work there as well because I do freelance administration. And where am I working now? I work for that studio. So there was an advert in the paper, and I answered it. I didn't know it was the studio, and I got the job and I started working for them. Then I left because I relocated, which was also a manifestation. And last year, the owner, she actually asked me to come back and work for them again. So I work for them. So it's awesome. You know, like to be outside of somewhere and then actually be part of the team, which is really fantastic. The other job that I manifested is that I was working for someone. I went for a walk one lunchtime, and I went down this lane that I'd never been down before. And at the end of this lane was this really amazing building called the Glove Factory. And it was all run down and everything like that. And I was like, oh, I'd love to live there in a place like that, you know, and get it totally renovated and do it up and everything like that. And what happened? I don't know, maybe, was it within maybe 6 months, a year, maybe something like that? I ended up working there. And it was totally renovated. So I didn't get to live there, but I got to enjoy the architecture, the design that had been put into it, the beautiful landscape gardens, and it was fabulous. So they're the two jobs that I've manifested, just standing outside the building. I need to do that more actually. I'm really, really good at manifesting homes for myself to rent. I haven't managed to manifest a home for myself to buy. So when I was moving from the north of the UK, called Scotland, this is for my international clients, I wanted to move south, which is England, so Scotland and England. And when I first came down, I stayed in a friend's house, and her house was in the most beautiful location in one of the most elegant and sought after areas in Bath. And I remember being in the house, and the ambience of the house, it was so quiet and serene, and they were a family of who played music, you know, musical instruments, and the piano and the music would just waft through the house, and I would look out over these rolling green hills. And I literally had nothing at the time, like literally nothing. And what happened? 4 years later, I ended up living, you could see it from if I was standing in that house again, the friends of the friend's house, if I looked out the window, I would have seen my apartment. I actually ended up living right in that location, which was extraordinary. And not even that, because I was on a relatively low income, I was on a good hourly rate, but a low income because I was working part-time, and I didn't have any friends or a partner or anything to assist me. So Bath was very expensive, and at the time I was living outside of Bath, and I never actually looked at Bath at all. I just thought it's too expensive, I can't afford it, that's it. And what happened was that, again, just a real fluke, an apartment came up in Bath. I went to see it, and it was a little bit over my budget, and I sort of worked out that I was maybe going to share it, blah blah blah, and all this sort of thing. And at the end of the day, the people didn't want me to take it. They kind of weren't sure, you know, they opted for someone else maybe with more financial security. And I was like, oh my God, you know. And I think that I just didn't have much time to find myself somewhere else. Oh yeah, I had a deadline. I had a deadline to find myself somewhere else. So the very next day, I saw an advert in the paper for Bath, which I was not looking at. And I answered it and I went to view it. And as I said, it was right opposite the location I stayed in 4 years before. I could not believe it. And the guy showed me the apartment and it was like, oh my God, like the most amazing apartment. And then he asked me, you know, it's this much, which is a little bit over my budget. I asked him if he could come down a bit. I'm not a negotiator at all. I'm rubbish at negotiating. But I did a little negotiation. And he said, yeah, you can take it. And I lived in that apartment for 4 years. It was amazing. So I'm really good at that. And, sorry, when I moved down from the UK, from Scotland, in the UK, from the north to the south, basically, I was looking at apartments within my budget. I had a very small budget. So I'm getting distracted because I'm actually thinking about those days. I had a very small budget and every place that the estate agent showed me was awful. You know, it was either like a really dank little house or a little studio with no finesse, or you looked out onto the back, onto something horrible or something like that. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do, you know? Anyway, she went to show me the last apartment. We walked through the door. I was expecting it to be as awful as all the other apartments that I'd seen. And this most beautiful apartment. Now, she was stunned and I was stunned. She looked at me and I looked at her and I was just like, what can this actually be true? It was a small apartment and it was so beautifully fitted out. And it had the most beautiful colour paint on the walls, and it had 12-foot Georgian elegant windows with shutters. I mean, it oozed character, but it was also quite modern as well. And I could not believe it. And nobody else had viewed it and nobody else wanted it. So I had that apartment and I stayed there for 4 years and it was completely within my budget. It was the most elegant apartment that I could get within my budget. Fantastic. So I'm in Italy at the moment and I was staying in an Airbnb and I needed to move out. And I had this thing in Italy where it became a real problem for me because I had stayed with my brother. This is important. I stayed with my brother, and if you live in the countryside, you're not on mains water. And you have an option of getting your water up from the artesian well. Okay, so it goes into the ground and it draws the water up. And my brother didn't have the right sort of equipment to store the water in a sanitized way, which I didn't realize at first. And then I realized and I just totally freaked out because to me, water's got to be really clean. So after staying in this Airbnb and I had to find another place in Italy, I thought if I stay in the countryside, it has to have an artesian well. So I was looking within a certain budget. And my friend had mentioned an area not to look for apartments. She mentioned it in some other conversation. It's like, oh, that sounds interesting. And I looked it up and this most beautiful apartment emerged. And it wasn't like an Italian apartment. It was more like a sort of German, Scandi, sort of UK type of apartment that I would imagine in the UK. I'm actually sitting in it right now. But one of the questions said, can you ask them if they have a UV filter? Not that I was in a position to negotiate anything. And sure enough, the owner said, yeah, that they do. When I arrived here earlier this year, he showed me where the water comes up and it goes through 3 UV filters. Well, three types of filters and one of them is UV. And I was like, fantastic. I mean, imagine manifesting that to that level of detail within your budget. I mean, my budget was less than the normal rate, and this was below my budget sort of thing. Was it below? It was well within it. Anyway, let's not get into that. Yeah, fantastic. Now, I was here earlier this year and now I've returned, and there's a manifesting story with this as well. So during the summer, I travelled a fair bit and I ran out of money. I was still working, but my income went, my savings or income went like that, because the cost of living became so high through the summer. And I was staying with my friend, and I had to find a place within, it was Sunday, and I had to move out on the Tuesday. Oh my God. So I'd seen a couple of places, which were both gorgeous, but there was just something wrong with the dynamic, right? That I couldn't take them, okay? And I had to find a third place. And I thought, what are the chances of finding a third place? Went online, this place just came to me, okay? Not this place, but this place online came to me. Called them or emailed them or whatever it was, and it was like, yeah, you can take the place. I said, could I get it at this price? Yeah, that's fine, you can get it at that price. And could I move in 2 days? Yes, you can. Wow. So I moved into that place, and it was lovely on so many levels. But a funny thing happened there, actually, is that it got an infestation of flying ants, like massive, like the whole bedroom got covered. And then I got a rat visit as well. Came into the house as well. And yeah, anyway, so I moved into this beautiful apartment, which eventually has the rats and the flying ants. And but I decided I'd put that aside because it was a really beautiful apartment, and I was negotiating whether I could stay for the winter, but the cost was going up, and because we'd had issues, I felt the cost should come down a little bit. And my money had gone down because one of my jobs, I wasn't getting any work. It was project work, and the projects had ceased. And things were getting really, really tight financially, like in a really, really difficult way. And so I thought, right, I'll just negotiate, see what this guy can offer me for the winter, just sort of take it as it comes. And I was waiting for his call in the morning, his text, his message, his WhatsApp message. And I got it, and I picked the phone up, and it wasn't him. It was the owner of this apartment, the one that I'd stayed in with the UV filter. And he was like, are you looking for an apartment still? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah. And he actually offered me a better deal than the first time I stayed here. And within a week, I was here with a lower rent, the perfect water, beautiful gardens in an area that I love, and all the rest of it. Now I'm in a position where I've now got to relocate again. So this is why, so I've got to relocate again. So I still get fear about manifesting, that I'm not going to be able to manifest. But I think the evidence has shown that I've manifested again and again and again. Actually, I've got another one as well. Right. So when I was in Bath and I moved into the beautiful flat in the area that I thought that I could never afford, okay, with the rolling hills and the birds tweeting outside and all the rest of it, I had decided that that I wanted to change my lifestyle, that I wanted to work part-time, not full-time. And because of that, I decided I wanted to live by the sea. And I wanted to move to Cornwall, okay? And I really didn't know much about Cornwall at all. So I needed to move out of the apartment that I was in. And because I'd actually left my full-time job, there was a really small time in which I needed to move, right? Things were getting like tight, you know, sort of thing. And I actually went through Airbnb and I emailed loads of people about, sorry, I'm getting distracted. So I emailed loads of people about would they be willing to rent their holiday apartments in the winter to me. Now, there's a little bit of a pre-story with this. Okay, when I was in the luxury apartment in Bath, I had gone on holiday to Cornwall, and I fell in love with it. And what happened is that I stayed in a particular bed and breakfast in Cornwall, and the scenes were beautiful. The skies were pink, and oh my God, it was just glorious. And I actually ended up manifesting the most gorgeous studio, which was 5 minutes from the bed and breakfast that I'd stayed at, completely within my budget. And not only that, that the interior was almost identical to a picture that I'd pulled out of a magazine. It was crazy. Almost identical roof, identical interior, identical lights, identical wood burning stove, the whole thing. And it was only 5 minutes from the bed and breakfast. And I manifested that, which was extraordinary. Now, what happened also, things didn't work out there. Studio was gorgeous, but Cornwall, not so much. My brother had a new partner, and she moved to Italy to live with him. And I wasn't jealous of her, but I was jealous that her life had changed so completely, moving to Italy, you know? And I suppose on some deep subconscious level, I wanted to live in Italy. I can't remember really thinking it in my mind, but I must have really wanted it. I couldn't work out how her life had changed so much. Like 1 minute she was living in one area, and the next minute she was living in Italy, surrounded by lemon trees and olive groves and stuff like that. And I couldn't work out how she'd done it. And I never thought, oh, I want to live in Italy. I just thought I wanted that type of change in my life, you know. So I'd done the Cornwall thing, but I wanted something more extraordinary. Well, through the most painful situation, I ended up in Italy. And the weird thing is that the day that I flew into Italy, the night before my brother's partner flew out of Italy. She not only flew out of Italy to end up living back in the UK where she used to live, I flew in and ended up living in the spot that she'd vacated in my brother's house. That was the weird thing. That's how it started. And even at that time, even though that had happened, I still wasn't registering that I had actually wanted this and desired this, you know, because I didn't even realize that I wanted to live in Italy, you know, like I can't actually consciously remember that. I'm trying to think, but it's like all the chess players have moved on the chessboard, and she'd come out and she'd gone back to her hometown in the UK, and I'd actually come in on the very next day that she'd left. I don't know if it was the very next day or the same day, but anyway, close, like super, super, super close. And this is what the universe can do. It can change your life in such an extraordinary way. And what happened was, I still wasn't saying I wanted to live in Italy, but I can remember that deep desire of wanting my life to change so profoundly like that. I actually then flew back to the UK to start my life back in the UK. I just sort of came for an extended holiday. And on the day that I went to fly back to the UK, I did it. I couldn't stop crying. I could not stop crying. I think it's sort of like when you're falling in love with someone, you don't realise that you're falling in love. Sorry, it gets me emotional. I'd actually fallen in love with the country. And I hadn't actually realised it until it was time to leave. So anyway, I went back to the UK, all guns blazing, to start a new life, and things went disastrously wrong, like terribly wrong, okay, too long to talk about. And I was actually forced back to Italy. And I remember on the flight back to Italy, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going back to Italy. I was completely distraught. I could have laid flat on the floor in the airport sobbing. I was so distraught about my life. But those circumstances that were so painful actually then started my life in this wonderful country. And I have been so, no, I feel tearful right now. I've been so happy since then. Anyway, emotional stuff. Right. Okay. Also, when I was living in that beautiful flat in Bath with the rolling hills and everything like that, I had a huge desire to become a digital nomad. And I started to watch people on YouTube, such as Car Sundance, about having a digital nomad life. And I really pushed hard to get this digital nomad life. You know, I really wanted it. You know, I was really terrified to start an online business and stuff like that. And I did that, and it failed miserably. Okay, and I became a hypnotherapist basically, and I trained for it. I qualified, and I started my own online business. And I left my 9 to 5, and the business failed miserably. So I was left in a very difficult situation. But when I wanted to do the course to become a hypnotherapy, it was £10,000, and it was based in Canada. Right, now this is weird. This is like super weird, okay? It was £10,000, and it was based in Canada. And I made an aircraft with Air Canada on it, and I put it on my shelf, right? And I really want to go to Canada. I really want to go on this course. But I actually ended up doing the online course because I couldn't afford it. The 10K, I didn't have 10K. And what happened is I actually manifested a girl from Canada who ended up staying in my flat for a while, which I thought was quite humorous, you know. So like, the universe like, well, we'll give you Canada, but we won't actually give it in the format that you wanted. But I really wanted to have a digital nomad lifestyle, and I really pushed for it hard. And it wasn't until I came to Italy under those really sad circumstances that I had to find very quickly a new job, okay? And all I can tell you, I can maybe do it on another video if you're interested. I felt my back was against the wall. I felt like I had nothing, and I had nothing to lose, right? I felt like I'd been stripped of everything. And I started to look for jobs. And I think I got a job like within a week or something, an online remote job. And now I'm living like a digital nomad. My work is all online. And when I was pushing so hard for it, I couldn't get it. And now I've got it. All right. So let me just check that all right. And then there's this hypnotherapy thing coming in, right? So back to it. When I was living in the beautiful flat in Bath with the lovely rolling hills and stuff like that, and I went down on holiday to Cornwall, okay, at that bed and breakfast, there was a little sign outside, and it said hypnotherapy. And I was like, oh, I'd love to be a hypnotherapist. I thought that would be just one of the most amazing jobs in the whole world. And then it was literally 6 months later, I qualified as a hypnotherapist. Oh, and the other thing that I manifested was that, remember I wanted to go to Canada, it cost 10K and I couldn't afford it, right? But I did manifest a business loan. For how much? For 10K. All right, so I want to tell you something else. So at the moment, I'm trying to manifest £5,000, okay? So I'm trying to do it, I'm trying to do small amounts, you know, because I always sort of want to manifest that really big amount so I don't need to work anymore. So I'm trying to manifest 5,000 for something particular, and I've painted a picture of this apartment that's in here. And if you know anything about manifestation, a lot of the people that are really great at manifesting have either worked on computers or virtual reality or something like that. Okay, it's very, very curious thing. And if you draw a picture, like mood boards and stuff like, if you draw a picture of where you live and you put stuff into that picture, then the universe has to manifest it. So I'm trying to manifest a car at the moment. So I put a picture of the car on this picture, and I put that on maybe a month ago. I drew a picture of the car, put it on the picture of this apartment, and the car has manifested. Now, there's a little problem. The car has manifested, and I've put the picture of the car in the driveway of this apartment, but the landlord doesn't want the car in the driveway because it's a UK car and it doesn't have the right insurance. Okay, so I need to work on that, but it's come. I'm halfway to manifesting my 5K. I wish I made it 100K. Right, and at the moment the manifestations are coming through work. But I do keep myself open to say to the universe, look, manifest it in any way, shape or form that you want. So I'm just waiting to see why the car isn't manifesting as I want. Now this car that I've manifested, it's a family member's car. It's been a pain in the arse this whole time. And there's been so many times when I should have had it and I didn't get it. Okay, so now it's in this location, but it's not in this driveway. And it could have been here a long time ago, but it's only appeared since I put the picture of it. I wonder if I should go and I'll go and get it, I'll show you. Okay, guys. So this is the picture of the house that I'm staying in. Okay, and all I did, I put a picture of a car here in the driveway. It says Saab, okay? And what I also did, this is my door here of the apartment. I put my £5,000 check coming to me here, okay? And also with this one, I like to imagine that the sun is streaming money into my front door. That's what I like to imagine, that these are money drops coming to my door. So if you want to manifest, try that. I'm just seeing if there's any other thing that I've missed out. So at the moment, I'm trying to manifest £5,000 for a particular thing. I'm also trying to manifest a new apartment, which shouldn't be any problem. Couple of things that are difficult though is that in Italy, where I am in the south, is tourist season, and Italians tend to have their homes are their main investments, okay? So they have mortgages or whatever. So they don't rent a lot of properties here unless it's for tourism. And for tourism, it can be 3 times the average monthly rental. So a normal Italian family will rent an apartment for say like £300 if they're going to rent. If you're just on a normal income. But during tourist season, they rent it for 500 or 600, sometimes even a room for 500 and upwards. 300 a month is the normal rental for an Italian family, a married couple. three to 600 a month, okay? 300 if you've just got a normal job. During tourist season, they'll rent it for £300 a week. Crazy, £300 a week. So it's really, really difficult. So what I'm trying to do is say, doesn't matter if all that's going on, the universe can manifest me the perfect apartment against all the odds. So I'll keep you updated on that. Okay, I think that's all for now. If I remember anything else, I'll let you know.